So here's a demonstration of creating a silhouetted image that's going to go into an InDesign project. I have a turtle here. He's actually silhouetted out of a larger image, and he appears to be swimming through this blue panel. So I'm going to show you how I did this. I had a student ask me about this, and I'm going to demonstrate on a piece of art that she would like to use. So I'm starting off by showing you that, let me click here and show you that when I drag this panel over, you'll see that the blue moves over and that turtle remains. So essentially the turtle and the background are two separate elements, and the turtle is silhouetted. I'm going to show you how I achieve that, and I'm going to be using Adobe Photoshop to do that. I just want to start off by showing this. Let me minimize this, and now here's my image in Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to actually show you how the simplest way, and that's really what this comes down to, what is the quickest, simplest way to get this guy silhouetted? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look up here, and under Dolphin Silo JPEG at 33%, 32% indicates that this is a larger file, so I think I'm in pretty good shape here. But I do notice that this is in RGB. So I might as well get this out of the way. The first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make this thing not RGB but CMYK. I'm going to go to the image menu, and I'm going to go to mode, and I'm going to convert this to CMYK, and I'll just go through these little buttons. Now this thing is in CMYK. Essentially now what I want to do is, I guess probably a good idea is to also check the image size, and the image size on this guy is 10 inches by 6 inches. That's more than big enough. And the resolution is 300 pixels per inch. If this were not 300 pixels per inch, I would abandon this right now. But since it's 300 pixels per inch and it's 10 inches, I could do this. So I'm going to hit OK. We've checked everything that we need to check to make sure that this will actually work. This is kind of a soft shot. He is not really heavy, hard edges. So I'm going to run into some bits of trouble when I actually try to extract this. But I am going to try to go about doing this the simplest way I know how. And that is, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose the quick selection tool. And I'm going to come out over top of my dolphin. And there are modifier keys. You got fancy brackets right over by backspace. The one that's on the right hand side, I'm going to tap it several times to bring up the size of my selection. It just makes it easier. I'm going to click, and I'm going to just slowly drag around my dolphin until I get most of him selected. And it looks like I might have lost a tiny bit of his face there. That's good. So there you go. Most of him is selected. That's great. I got most of this done. However, down in this area here, because of the softness of the edges, I've run into some problems. I'm going to show you another fairly quick way to get through this area of problem. And I do that by first going back up by the backspace to my fancy brackets. And this time I'm going to use the fancy bracket that's on the left, and I'm going to press on it several times to bring this selection down. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm not on the dolphin this time. I'm outside the dolphin, and I'm going to press down the Option or Alt key. And notice that my little selection shape turns into a negative. And I'm going to click, and actually it pretty much did exactly what I wanted it to do. It nipped that whole area out. It did mess up on the belly a little bit, and I still have that little area here that has some belly and some background that I have to deal with. I'm going to deal with that using a different tool, but you can see the quick selection tool does a pretty good job of grabbing something like this. And remember one thing, this is a soft edged picture. So it's not like you got absolute hard edges. When you have soft edges like this, it's even more tricky. But you can see it does a pretty good job. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to fix this belly, and I want to nip out that little area right there, and I even see a tiny little spot there that I don't like. So I'm going to show you how I can use a second tool to go in and fix all this stuff. To do it the simplest way I can, I'm going to grab the polygon lasso tool, click on that, and then I'm going to come out here, and I get out here, I'm going to go over top of the dolphin. What I'm doing this time is I'm adding to the selection, not subtracting from. The last time I subtracted from it, now I'm going to add to it. So to add to it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I want you to take a look at what happens to my pointer. When I do that, I click on it. You see what it does? It gives me the plus sign next to the little polygon lasso. And I'm going to click, and then I'm going to start moving in the direction of where I think his belly is going, and move out till I get over top of him again, and then come up and over and over. When I reach the point where I began, you're going to see the little circle come up on my key, and I click, and now look, I've added that area in. So this is all very simple to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same thing over here as I did before. I'm going to remove from the selection. So instead of holding the shift key, which would add to the selection, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the alt key. And you'll notice now that there's a negative sign underneath the little icon. Also notice where I am. I'm out on the pasteboard, and I'm going to start my click out on the pasteboard, and then I'm going to move in to about where I think the belly and the fin intersect, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to work my way over, and when I get it where I think I want it, which would be about like that, I'm going to click. I'm back out on the pasteboard, remember. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come over to where I began, and I'm going to click, and there you go. Look, I've carved that piece out. So now I have the entire dolphin silhouetted, except for one tiny little area here, which I think I'll come in and fix right now. This is the same deal. I'm going to start off by working somewhere outside the dolphin shape, and I'm going to hold the alt key down, and notice again when I do that I get the negative sign, and I'm going to click to place my first point, and then I'm going to move into where I think I want to go, which is about there, and then I'm going to move over and come out to about here and click, and then come out here, and then come down and find my start point. And there, he's silhouetted. He's done. The only thing that I have to do actually is physically take him out of the background. That wasn't too difficult. I'm going to come up to the select menu, and I'm going to go refine edge, and I get the refine edge dialog box. Now there are views, and the view that I have chosen is on black because I like the extreme view. It helps me visualize what I'm doing, but there are other ways that you could view this. I prefer on black. That's the one I'm suggesting. I'm going to come down here. These are my modifiers. Essentially what they will do is they will help me to smooth and clean up my edge. You can see it's a little bit rough. I'm going to smooth and clean up my edge by playing with these adjustments. First thing I guess I'm going to do is, it doesn't look like I have to shift the edge much, but here maybe a little bit. I think maybe I'll try shifting the edge a couple of pixels. Probably have to go a little more. I'm trying to get rid of some of that highlight there. Bring it into about, I'm at about 78, I'm about 80. I think I'm actually a little extreme with this, but let's leave it for the time being. I can always come back and adjust it later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up the contrast. I'm going to bring it all the way up to 100. It actually smoothed it out pretty good. The only other thing that I might do here is I might bring up the feather so I can feather this edge. Now I noticed that by doing that, I'd like to bring the feather out even more. That's probably too much. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start backing it off till maybe I get around 15. Let's try 15. There, 13. Let's try 13. Okay, that's not too bad, but I gotta bring back some of that edge. I shifted the edge too far. So I'm going to start bringing the edge back until I find what I like. And I'm actually pretty close to what I like right there. There, that's not too bad. Okay, now, of course, I think maybe the feather is a little bit high, so I'm going to bring it back down to maybe 8. And that's not too bad. Do I want to shift it? I think I'll probably go with this for the time being. That's not really that bad. It's got the soft quality I'm looking for. There's his eye. It's there. This is sort of believable. This is sort of believable. So basically now, my settings are, I smoothed it out to 100% on this particular one. And this is something that you need to know, with the exception of your view mode, because usually you want to view it against a strong contrast. So using the black for me is the best way to go, and I generally go with that. These adjustments in here vary depending upon the image. This is a very soft edge image, so you're fighting it harder to get the thing out and get an edge on it. And I could probably maybe, bring the feather back a little bit and see how that works. That's not bad that way either. So you're going to come in and you're going to play with these adjustments. You've got smoothness, which will try to smooth the edge. Feather, which essentially creates a sort of blurriness to the edge. You can bump up the contrast on this, which basically, see what it does? It removes that feathering. In this particular case, I don't think I like that look, so I'm going to back off on it and maybe all the way back out until it's pretty much all gone. Let's bring it down real low. and yeah, I'm still not liking it, so I'm bringing it over. I'll try it one or two, and yeah, it's actually not too bad that way, but I would probably just remove it. Let's see what it does when I take it off. Yeah, I'm just as good with it this way. And then of course shifting the edge essentially either brings your line of pixels either in or out, depending upon which way you go. Shifting the edges to the negative, watch when I shift them to the negative. See what it does? It goes inside. If you shift it out, you bring it back to 0. Okay, I'm bringing it out. Now what I'm doing is I'm bringing your selection out. See? And that looks actually pretty good where I am right now. I'm going to probably bring it down to 30, and let's see what 30 looks like. 29. Yeah, that's okay. I think maybe I'll stay with that. So this is the point. You play around with these settings and you're looking at the edge, because that's what the selection is. It's the edge. You look at the edge, and when you get the edge that you like, you know you're good. So what you're going to do, you could also remember the settings, but generally I don't remember the settings because I never find that the images I work with are so much the same as one another that I can just use a standard setting. I generally have to make a custom setting every time. I just want to point out that this is not that difficult to do. I mean, you saw they were just a very few steps and we got a nice silhouette going here. When I click OK, watch what happens. My marching ants come back, and there you go. Look, I got my selection. So what I generally do here, and this is probably the most dramatic way to see this, is I'm going to go up to the layer, and I'm going to go New, Layer via Copy, right here. And now what I've done essentially is I'll close the background. Now you're seeing there's my silhouette. So now I've basically silhouetted my dolphin, and it's essentially ready to go. So there are two small things that I want to do here. And the first thing is I want to do a levels adjustment on this to see if I could get my dark areas and my grays a little bit poppier. So I went into my adjustment layer here and I chose levels, and this is what I get. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my dark slider, my black slider, and I move that over. And I think somewhere around maybe 33. Let's try 33, see what that looks like. A little better. And then this mid-tone here, I'm going to try it around 33 as well. So let's see if I can bring this thing over. 33 is way too much. I think maybe slight adjustment of maybe a little bit heavier, like about like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my levels, and if I remove it, you can see what it's done for me. And I think that this is going to work a little bit better once I go into my next adjustment. Oh, and by the way, this is a very important thing. When you apply adjustments, I am going to be applying adjustments to just the Dolphin layer. Just to make it easier for you to visualize this, I'm going to change this to Dolphin. So now that's Dolphin, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that levels layer and apply it to the Dolphin. How I do that is I come over and I click on my alternate or option key when I'm sitting right in front of my two levels layer and Dolphin layers come together, and then I click, and what that does is it applies it just to the Dolphin layer. You see how you can tell it happens is you get that little inset pointing down arrow, which is telling you essentially that it is going to be applying to dolphins. So again, with dolphins selected, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose one more effect, and that is, in this case, going to be hue and saturation. And what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to desaturate my dolphin all the way down. Now you've got something that looks like this. And also note that since I came in here and clicked on the Dolphin layer, the hue saturation has also been inset and is now affecting just my Dolphin layer. I have a layer 2 down here, which you didn't see me add, but I did add it. It is simply a blue background layer so that I could show you what this is going to look like. So when I click that layer to show it, there's your dolphin sitting in front of the layer, and you get a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like. Now these are adjustable, so I can go back in and I can play around with the adjustments on this, which I'm going to do in a minute. But one of the things I want to do here is I want to take the opacity of this, and I want to bring the opacity down a little bit so I can start bringing this dolphin into the other image. And I think maybe around 50 will do it. So there's 50. Now, the only other thing that I want to do with this, since I have this thing set up right now, is actually I don't think I really want to do anything. I think this is looking pretty good. All right, so here's where we are with this. We basically have, look, if I remove my levels, okay, there's your what it looks like. This is what it now looks like, and I think this looks pretty good. And the hue saturation, if I remove the hue saturation, that's what it looks like. And I prefer that look because it looks more like it's within the blue that's there. There's one other thing that we could try here. I'm going to change this to darken. I'll change this to multiply. And you know what? To be totally honest with you, I think I prefer this as normal because it gives you a little bit more of this color, which I think is somewhat characteristic to dolphins. So the final settings for this before I export it will be normal, 50%, and then I have the levels adjustment, which you saw me made, hue saturation. Finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide layer 2 because layer 2 is not at all what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this guy right here, and it's going to look like this. So what I'm going to do now is go up to the File menu, and I'm going to go Save As. To drop this down, and it's not going to be a Photoshop, it's going to be a TIFF. So I click on TIFF. Dolphin Silo TIFF is fine. I'm just going to save it to my desktop right now. I'm going to hit Save. And I come up here. Only thing I want to point out to you is that I'm going to leave all this alone, essentially. Right here, you'll see where it says Save Transparency. Yours may be unselected. It's critical to get the transparency that you choose Save Transparency. So make sure that that is clicked. And then you come up here and you hit OK. Including layers will increase files. No problem. Go right ahead and do it. It's not a problem in this case. And that's it. It's done. So I'm going to drop this down. And we're going to go back into InDesign for a second. And here is my box that has my turtle in it. And I'm going to select the turtle in the box. And you can see that my turtle is selected because of the brown line that's being selected. So now what I want to do is I want to replace this with my dolphin. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go place, and I'm going to go onto my desktop and I'm going to find my dolphin silo TIFF, and I'm going to hit open, and there my dolphin is. And I can come in here and I can click on my dolphin and I can increase the size of my dolphin, bring my dolphin up like this. Now the only problem that I have with this particular dolphin is that it is sort of being clipped off at the top. So in this particular case, the positioning of the dolphin would have to change. So what I would do with this is I would go back out and I would come and click the box again, and then I would move the box up. Move the box up to the top. In this particular case, you would need to do that. And there's my dolphin. And then, basically what I could do is go to the View menu, and I could go Grids and Guides, Hide Guides, and View Extras, Hide Frame Edges. And now you're getting a good look at my dolphin and how I've replaced my dolphin. Not too difficult. I think you should be able to do this. Please give it a try.